Hey guys, Ruminating Reaper here. So yep, as you can see, outside the cinema, it's that time of the week. I'm about to head in to see Cold Storage. Yes, this is the one with Joe Keery and Liam Neeson. The trailers for this did look like a lot of fun. This does look to be a prime sort of horror comedy, one that's definitely one to experience with an audience. So I hope it lives up to that promise. But the only way to find out if it does is to head in, get some snacks, and get seated for Cold Storage. Alrighty, let's go get us some popcorn now. Popcorn has been secured. Let's go watch the movie. So, Cold Storage. I am back from seeing it. This is directed by Johnny Campbell and written by David Koepp, who you'll know best as the screenwriter of Jurassic Park. Here he is actually adapting his own novel of the same name for the screen. And look, this is exactly the kind of small-scale genre mashup that we don't really seem to get in cinemas much anymore. Obviously, they've been largely swallowed up by streaming. And so, obviously, I was looking forward to watching it. It had quite an intriguing sounding setup and a cast of top actors. So I went into this hopeful, or at least a half-decent experience, just something that would give me those genre thrills. But does the film actually deliver on its promise of a fun sci-fi horror? Let's find out. So in the film, an infectious fungus found in an oxygen tank from the old NASA space station Skylab is contained and stored in a military facility in Atchison, which is decommissioned and many years later turned into a self-storage facility where employees Travis, aka Tea-Cake, and Naomi are working the night shift. During the shift, the pair hear noises in the wall and end up discovering the old site, thought to be sealed off. They head down and end up finding the fungus for themselves, and so, with it out of containment, former bioterror operative Robert Quinn is called out of retirement to help the pair kill the fungus once and for all before it can spread. So this has had kind of an interesting road to release. This was shot all the way back in 2023 and sat on the shelf for 3 years. And usually when that happens, it's because either the film is a bit of a stinker or the studio just does not know how to actually sell it. And well, in the end, thankfully, this is neither of those, because turns out it's just a real solid genre piece. Now, obviously, for as intriguing as its high concept premise and setup are, the story here is nothing particularly groundbreaking. A lot of the setups here, our two main characters working a dead-end job with a dickhead boss and, secret government research facility. I think you'll be able to guess a lot of how it actually plays out, but it works because the film keeps up a fairly good pace throughout. This runs at a fairly tight hour 39, and so it doesn't outstay its welcome and very much keeps things moving at a quite healthy flow. But it works because it very much leans into the genre fun of it all. It very much embraces the sort of campy sci-fi horror of it, with some really fun visuals for the killer fungus itself. There's some really cool, like fast-paced tracking shots as it travels through the body and infects. There's some really fun practical makeup and some cool splatter sequences to show what the infection does to the human body, but and not even just the human body, to just anything it infects. It's a lot of fun throughout, and while there are some CGI moments in here that do kind of cheapen it, you can tell it's been made with a lot of love for this sort of campy sci-fi horror B movie. And it helps that it keeps up a fairly goofy, tongue-in-cheek vibe throughout, particularly with some quite inspired needle drop placements. Notably, this is the second film in the last few weeks to contain a one way or another needle drop, and the sequence it's used here is a very fun one, and so very much does help in keeping up that sort of goofy vibe. There's also some quite, funny moments here. There's obviously plenty of jokes. Now, admittedly, the comedy element does take a little while to actually find its footing because for the opening stretch, some of the banter here can feel kinda, to borrow a word used in the film, loquacious. But once we settle into the sort of flow of it all and the character dynamics, the film very much does find its groove and the comedy does begin to hit a lot more. And in general, it just gets funnier and funnier as it goes on. Notably, Joe Keery as Tea Cake gets his fair share of actually quite funny line deliveries and amusing moments. And him and Georgina Campbell as Naomi actually do play off each other quite well. There's sort of a comedic chemistry here is very strong and does lead to plenty of quite funny moments. But it helps as well that the two characters are quite easy to root for and do have some quite genuine character arcs. Obviously, Tea Cake is this guy who's like fresh out of prison and is trying to better himself and make a fresh start in life, while Naomi is sort of stuck in a rut and stuck in a difficult relationship while also trying to raise a young child. And so there's sort of something quite interesting in obviously seeing these two characters kind of find solace in each other and have to rely on each other to get out of this quite unexpected sequence of events alive. And, they are just, again, it helps that they're sympathetic and likable and just easy to root for. And again, the two of them do a great job and give very, very solid performances. We also notably in the mix have Liam Neeson as Robert Quinn. And obviously, I am quite enjoying this newfound comedy star stage of Neeson's career, obviously following on from The Naked Gun last year, a film that was so much funnier than it had any right to be. He very much keeps that up here in this role where he gets his fair share of quite amusing deadpan line deliveries as this sort of gruff veteran bioterror agent. And it also very much plays into Neeson's age in a way that actually is kind of a funny subversion of the sort of action hero roles that have dominated his career post Taken. So it's very much worth it to see him play with that sort of hard man persona a bit. And yeah, because of the characters, the film very much finds that balance between its goofier comedic side and the more serious sci-fi and horror elements, particularly in its climax, where we have obviously the stakes raised with a very fun ticking clock mechanic that obviously adds to the urgency of it in a gripping and quite urgent way. But it all works because of the characters. It never loses sight of why we are rooting for them, and it most importantly does not lose sight of its goofier comedic side either, as it still fits in some moments that are actually quite funny, and just overall leaves it as a quite satisfying cinema experience. One that I'd say is worth checking out just to experience it with an audience. Overall, Cold Storage isn't exactly reinventing the wheel, but it does deliver some solid genre fun thanks to its high concept setup, plenty of splatter, some decent laughs, and above all, likable and sympathetic characters. Out of 10, Cold Storage gets a 7. So, let me know down in the comments, have you seen Cold Storage? What did you think of it? Would you like to see this kind of low-budget genre piece be released in cinemas more often? Would you like to see Joe Keery in more movies? And are you excited for what this comedy star stage of Liam Neeson's career has in store next? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.